Hi you guys, Kirkland here. I'm back to do part 2 of Tome 11 Devotion, so let's go.
What was it about him? The question stumps David. He takes a moment to gather himself. I couldn't say one thing. It was a bunch of little things. It just made me feel good when I was around him. Everyone else makes me feel like I gotta be something I'm not. But not him. I never did believe the press release. My parents can't stand each other. They should have divorced years ago. But they keep up the show and have their secret lives. So I guess that's normal. It works for some people. I miss him. I miss us. I remember meeting him like it was yesterday. Just being with him was enough to know. And I knew right away that he was special. And that he would somehow be an important part of my life. We met at music camp. I was 7 and didn't want to go. Ironically, my mother forced me. And I guess in a way she's the reason we met. I couldn't play any instrument. But Tristan was something else. I liked listening to him play the piano. First, my mother was happy. I had a music friend. Maybe I would end up a violinist. I guess she figured things out faster than I did. Because next thing I know, she forbids him from coming over. She gave some excuse about his family being of improper standing. Then the talks began. The responsibility of being a king. She tells me about the image of our family and the strength of our name, and how I had pretty big shoes to fill. Sacrifices for the family and all that bullshit. But she never said exactly what she meant. She always danced around what she really wanted to say. David laughs. Tristan ended up going to the same secondary school as me. Funny how life works out. He used to write me notes, quotes, poetry, proverbs, smart aleck comments he knew would make me laugh. We got back together in secret and were together for years, till he began asking me to be introduced to my parents. Couldn't do it. I broke up with him. He broke up with me. Crazy fucking cycle. Last year, he wanted a real commitment. He was talking about a family and kids. I nearly brought myself to doing it, but I didn't. I broke it off and broke his heart. He didn't take it so well, got pissed, and actually came to my birthday party at the pub. He just shows up, and he gives me a kind of Great Gatsby toast, and he hesitates. And I know what he wants to do. I know what he wants to say. But in the end, he doesn't. Instead, he says what a good old pal I've been to him. And he makes a smart aleck joke about how I'm a ladies' man who will definitely never settle down. And with tears in his eyes, he finishes his toast with, "To the importance of being king." Smart ass. And everyone toasts to it. Even the old man. King laughs, then stops suddenly. Tristan staggers out with his pint and leaves an old note on the table. Something he had given me in an English class while the teacher was massacring one of his favorite writers with ridiculous interpretations. He called me a few days ago, invited me to a party at the Gold Lantern Cafe. A going-away party. Tonight. He's leaving for New York. Some piano gig. He's leaving with some guy he just met. They hardly know each other a month, and he's following him to New York. How ridiculous is that? Rick says nothing as they stare at the fading stars for a moment. Silent tears slip out of 2 narrow slits for eyes. David clears his throat and wipes the tears away with his arm. You ever feel like just stopping? Rick turns to David. I imagined you'd have to start before you could actually stop. Way I see it, you've always been this lion, taking down the bully, the asshole, the abuser. Ever since I've known you, I've admired you for that. You're great at clobbering the shit out of anything that gets in your way, except maybe yourself. I figure you could try building things, growing things, nurturing things. Things like you. Rick squeezes his arm. You're a lion, Dave. And as much as you're going to hate me saying this, you're a circus lion tethered and dressed up like a clown. You need to tear the rope and the costume with your own claws and teeth if you ever truly want to know what it's like to be you. You want to stop something? Stop jumping through hoops. Stop being the clown and just be the goddamn lion you were born to be. You're about to regret something for the rest of your life, and you know it. David stares into space. Rick squeezes his arm again. Way I see it, you owe someone a toast. You're an idiot if you think I'm just going to walk over there and crash his party. You're an idiot if you don't run. David charges down the street and pushes his way inside the cafe. Scanning the room, he doesn't see Tristan or his party. He yells at a waitress from across the room, and to his horror, she tells him Tristan already left for the airport. Her words stun him like a slap in the face. He's too late, and his whole world is spinning out of control. He takes a moment to gather himself. Then he decides and rushes out into the street, screaming wildly for a taxi. A taxi pulls to the curb. The driver looks at David, hesitates, then starts the meter and steps on the gas. Next thing David realizes, he's bolting down the highway, rehearsing what he's going to say to Tristan. He struggles with ideas and words, and feels nothing he comes up with is good enough. The taxi pulls up to the sliding glass doors of the airport, and David vaults out. The driver yells at him. He returns to pay him, and then rushes through the automated doors into a bustling open area. He quickly regards a monitor displaying flight departures, sees one flight leaving for New York, rushes through the terminal, but security stops him in his tracks. Can't pass without a boarding pass. David stares at him, trying to catch his breath as he processes everything at once. He tries to explain his situation, but the brute won't budge, not even an inch. David turns back and rushes to the check-in counter. He buys a business class ticket on the plane to New York. Then he runs back and passes through security. He runs faster and faster, and he's nearly there. He's going to do this. He's really going to do this. Suddenly, he smashes into an older man carting luggage who looks like his father with his salt and pepper hair and chiseled jaw. He tumbles over the ground as fear hits him like a fist, knocking the breath out of him for a moment. Just a moment. In the chaos, he notices Tristan's note on the ground. He grabs it, holds it, remembers. The man yells at David to be careful, but that's the last thing David wants to do right now, as he puts the note back into his pocket and clambers over a pile of luggage and charges away. Within moments, he sees the gate, sees Tristan, laughing with his partner, happy. He freezes in his tracks. Guilt smashes down on him like a brick wall, pushing and squeezing his insides into something awful. At once, everything begins to spin as he realizes he's going to be sick. David turns on his heels, rushes to the bathroom with a hand over his mouth, and blasts through a stall to purge his stomach. Then he hobbles out and washes gunk off his face, and feels like the most selfish person in the world. His busted and swollen face sags with the sudden realization that if he loves Tristan, if he truly loves Tristan, he will let him go. Rick got into his head, and he's drunk. That's all this is about. All he needs to do right now is be happy for Tristan. To be happy for him and go home and sleep this crazy night off. David walks away from Gate 72 with his head in a whirlwind. He knows he isn't thinking straight, and that it's selfish to pull Tristan back into his mess. He made his bed, and now he has to fucking lie in it. David approaches the security gate, and his heart clenches like a vice. It's impossible to move. Something bigger than his doubt, his guilt and his fear won't allow him to take another step. His hand plunges into his pocket, and he turns the note over and over. Then, in a blazing flash, details of their struggle come back to him. How could he let him go? The one whose voice was the only peace he had ever known, whose laugh was the only joy he had ever experienced, whose every breath filled him with life, and whose every word challenged him to be a better man. How could he leave without even trying, without showing him that he was, in the end, willing to do whatever it took for what they had? David realizes that if he doesn't seize this moment, he'll never know, and the regret alone would destroy him. Tristan doesn't just make him whole, he makes him real, and no one has ever had that effect on him. Suddenly, he comes alive, and turns, and fucking runs. I don't know what I'll say, but I'll say something, anything. I'll say whatever comes to mind. Maybe those 3 words from his favorite movie. Energy charges through David like a bolt of lightning, making him faster, stronger, and somewhat confident, even though he has no idea what he's going to say or do. He just runs, and his run becomes a stumbling sprint as he sees Tristan with his partner, about to board. His mouth opens in a silent scream as he stumbles and falls on his face. David? Is that you? Tristan grabs David's hand and helps him to his feet. David straightens himself and tries to look presentable despite the busted face and the mingled odor of ale, gunk, and cologne. He smells like someone puked on a bed of flowers, and he knows it. But he forgets how he looks and smells as he tries to stop his hands from shaking. He takes a deep breath, exhales, and calms himself. Then he reaches out and holds Tristan's hands firmly. Words thicken like cement in his throat, and nothing clever or poetic comes to mind. He tries to remember the line from the movie without success. Tristan's partner steps forward, but Tristan gestures for him to be patient as he pulls David aside. What's wrong, David? What the hell happened to you? David wants to tell Tristan he means the world to him. He wants to say, I love you, but instead he says, no more bullshit. Tristan mimes the words slowly, trying to understand. David says them in a whisper, again and again, as he desperately waits for Tristan to say something, anything. Tristan says nothing, but his eyes mist, and he suddenly looks happy and sad and very confused at the same time. In the rainy darkness of night, David staggers down a street he doesn't recognize, drenched, cold, singing some half-remembered folk song. The last thing he expected was a fairy tale ending, and of course he understands Tristan needs time to think things through. How much time? Hopefully not much. Just enough for him to step off the plane and call him to say, as you wish. Shit. Now he remembers. At exactly the wrong moment. David smirks. Doesn't matter. He's never felt so good, so free, so euphoric in his life. He lets the feeling flow past him like a gentle breeze and gets the sense that he's been born again, or born for the first time, and that before this night he had merely existed as a cardboard cutout with little self-awareness except for the fear that had come to rule his life. His hope is that when Tristan's plane lands, he will receive a phone call asking him to be on the next plane out. If that is, he ever finds his wallet. Oh, no matter. If he can walk home from the airport, he can swim across the pond. He laughs to himself and figures his wallet will turn up somewhere. It always does. But what if he calls to say it's over? The thought catches him by surprise. That's probably what will happen. Truth is, love doesn't triumph, and our fears get the best of us, always. That's why fairy tales are written, to escape the endless disappointments and heartaches of real life. Regardless of what you think, your love isn't strong enough, and when he calls, it's only to tell you it's over, for good, because he won't let you break his heart again. David drowns the thoughts by singing louder and louder. Then he stops suddenly when he sees a park he half recognizes. It resembles a park where he and Tristan used to sit on a bench and people watch all day. He enters the gates, and for a moment he hears Tristan's voice singing with him. He stops, looks around, but doesn't see anything through thick, slanting sheets of rain. David continues through slumbering bushes and sagging flowers under a thick canopy dripping and pit-pattering with rain. He walks ahead until he hears a soft whisper. No more bullshit. He turns to face Tristan. He rubs his puffy eyes and stares with disbelief. Tristan laughs. Only you could massacre a line like that. It can't be. It's impossible. David narrows his gaze on Tristan's silhouette. He must have somehow disembarked the plane. Or maybe he never boarded in the first place. He doesn't really understand what's happening. But he knows better than to overthink his luck. David runs to embrace Tristan, but just as soon as he touches him, he withers away like a dead flower. With a gasp, David drops to his knees, hopelessly trying to catch the falling petals that melt in his hands and drip through his fingers into a gathering fog. He barely has time to register what's happening when he hears footsteps squelching in the mud and water all around him. He looks up slowly to see every single bully, abuser, and shithead he ever took down advancing on him. His gut reaction is to pinch himself, yet nothing happens when he does. With a deep sigh of resignation, David rises to his feet, lifts his chin, and throws himself into the fray. He tackles and swings and kicks until he's the last man standing, with slithering tendrils of black fog pulling him down into a world of darkness, untouched by the light of love.
Okay, let's continue with the last part.
Year 7, day 189, morning. Through the endless reaches of this dark dimension, we have made an astonishing discovery. A tower like a lighthouse in a thick ocean of fog, calling out to us with music. Several of us recognize the melody and rush through the fog to find the tower abandoned by its past occupants. Year 7, day 189, afternoon. I still don't have a clear picture of who lived in this tower before, other than they enjoyed golf and whiskey and kept extensive journals of people trapped in this dimension. Year 7, day 189, night. Some are calling our temporary home Chateau Arkham. Others are calling it the Arkham Hotel. And the scriptwriter James Rich insists on calling it the House of Arkham, as it reminds him of a dime comic he once read based on a story by Lovecraft. We cleared the rooms, and I took possession of the study, where I found vinyl records and cassettes with stories and journals read by the previous occupant. The chateau, my preferred name, has items and technology from other worlds that are quite difficult to understand. There is one contraption in the basement completely on the fritz. It emanates blue energy, and it seems to be manifesting memories from the atmosphere. I've ordered the basement off limits until we know more. Year 7, day 189. Postscript. A few of us read stories and drank a little whiskey before retiring to bed. Good stuff. Helps take the edge off.
James Rich. Journal of a moving picture. Of dreams and madness. I have attempted to prepare a quick outline of what this story will be, and I'm starting to sense I will need to disregard the formula for the previous pictures I've written and attempt something new. The truth is, I can't make sense of any of it. It's like living in a world of boundless imagination where everything and anything can happen. That is to say, being led to this tower feels as impossible as all the faces and residual memories we've been seeing in the endless fog that seems to imprison and torment us. You can bet your last dollar if you walk in this fog long enough, you'll bump into Lovecraft in a straitjacket, convulsing on the ground, dreaming up all this impossible horror, and that all that I am and all that I'll ever be is just a figment of his madness. It's a strange thought. I've mentioned the idea to several others, and they agree this tower does have the feel of a house or hotel you would find in his fictional town of Arkham. Several in the group began calling the tower the Arkham Inn, but I still maintain the more fitting name is House of Arkham.
Alright, you guys, well, that concludes Tome 11 Devotion. I hope you've enjoyed it today, and as always, if you have friends or family that play this game with you and want to know how to complete their challenges in the tomes or earn codes for charms and BP, make sure they like and subscribe to this channel and sign up for all the notifications so they don't miss a beat. Until then, this is Kirkland signing out. Take care, everybody. We'll catch you on the next one, Tome 12, soon. Bye for now.